Blended learning has come as a positive response to ensure non-stop learning in the face-to-face classroom setting and in online learning environment. Hello everyone, I am Lukman Bello. In the previous classes, you have been exposed to the principles of blended learning and different modes of blended learning in the classroom. In this video, we are going to examine things that you need to consider at the design stage of blended learning in order to purposefully integrate in-class and online learning activities for your students. This will make blended learning meaningful to your students at any level. So, let us see how you can achieve this within the instructional setting. Alright, let us now quickly look at the ways you can purposefully integrate in-class and online learning activities in blended learning environments. This is important because blended learning emphasizes the need for you as a teacher to manage classroom interaction in the face-to-face classroom setting and online learning activities. So you should be able to manage this and ensure that your learners are able to learn meaningfully across the process. So you need to consider different things at the design stage for you to be able to achieve this. Blended learning is growing all over the world. Blended learning has come as a positive response to educational challenges, especially in this post-COVID-19 era. And with the increasing popularity and relevance of blended learning, the design issues still persist. People seem to overlook the issues of design. They seem not to understand that for you to have effective blended learning, there should be adequate design. So productive blended learning is based on effective design. If you have effective design at the planning stage, then at the implementation stage, you have effective learning that will be meaningful to your students. The design of blended learning focuses on a learner-centered approach that is personalizable and accessible. In essence, the focus of blended learning is to ensure that we have learner-centered learning. An effective blended learning environment occurs when teachers can let go of the control of their classrooms. And this is important, and let the students thrive. If you want to design effective blended learning system or effective blended learning setting, then you should be able to shift your role. There should be a change of role as a teacher. You should now see yourself not as a sage on stage as we used to have in the lecture method or the conventional method, but now you should see yourself as a guide by the side. And basically, when you have blended in the blended learning environment, the instructional content can be divided into three blended learning components. And as far as I'm concerned, the combination of these three components will form effective blended learning setting. So the combination of self-managed learning, face-to-face tutorial, and online learning. When you are able to deliver learning across these three components, then effective blended learning can be achieved. What we mean by self-learning, self-managed learning is a self-learning instructional content that allows learner to learn at their pace. It can be your course material, it can be your self-learning material, can be textbook, anything that will allow learners to learn at their own pace. And that is what we call self-learning, self-management. There should be a component of blended learning that will address this. That there should be a component of blended learning that will be based on face-to-face tutorial. It might be laboratory practicals, it might be interaction online, it might be interaction in class. There should be face-to-face tutorial. And there should be online learning as well that will anchor discussion, interaction, and collaboration in the virtual learning environment. So you should be able to combine this. When you have a content to be delivered in blended learning, then you should be able to specify what part of the instructional content goes for self-managed learning, what part of instructional content will be delivered through face-to-face tutorial, and what part of the instructional content will be delivered in online learning. So a well-stated learning outcome can guide you to effectively do this. Now, there's also a need for us to go beyond what we call structural blending. What we call structural blending is the assumption that blended learning strictly has to do with online and face-to-face, combination of online and face-to-face learning. That is structural blending. But this time around, blending has gone beyond this structural blending, as you might need to blend at different stage of instructional process. For instance, you might need to blend when you are coming up with your content. You may blend your content. Practicals and theoretical parts you can blend together. You can blend your learning outcomes. You can set your learning outcomes across higher order and lower level and lower level of cognitive abilities. So you can also blend at the level of learning activities. You can blend your learning activities. You can blend at the level of assessment. You can blend multiple choice questions with essay question. You can blend with um, fill in the gap questions. You can blend all this. Okay. You can also blend technologies. You can select different kinds of technology using multimedia resources. So when you are designing your blended learning, you should consider all this. You should ensure that you blend across all these components. How do you now purposefully integrate in-class and online learning activities? Because these are the things you need to combine. You need to design for in-class and you need to design for online learning activities. An effective way to mix in-class or in-person and online class activities is to use the teaching, social, and cognitive presences. And that is as we have in the community of inquiry theoretical framework. And the framework emphasizes these types of presences. Okay, the teaching presence, the social presence, and the cognitive presence. Let's quickly look at this. Now, we have social presence. Okay, your blended learning should emphasize social presence. Social presence in the sense that there should be the content should be structured in such a way that there will be collaboration, there will be interaction. Okay. That is social presence. Now, the cognitive presence has to do with the connection of ideas and applying new knowledge. Now, you should be able to exchange the content should encourage your students to exchange knowledge and apply new knowledge. Okay, that is cognitive presence. Now, the teaching presence, remember, I'm not saying teacher presence here. Okay, I'm saying teaching presence is different. The teaching presence, that is the teaching component of the content. So the content should also teach students what we have in the curriculum and share experience as well. Okay, and focusing on discussion. These are the things you need to do in teaching presence. We're still going to examine this. Now, in terms of social presence, the institution or the teacher needs to determine the integration of technological tools or technological resources, the learning activities, and the instructional content that will encourage collaboration and interaction. So when you are designing your blended learning, you should focus on the content, or you should structure your content in such a way that there will be collaboration and interaction among students. Now, the cognitive presence is also important for you to integrate in-class and on-class online learning activities. Now, blending should trigger connections. Okay, there should be connection of ideas. Then, when there are the connections of ideas, then you should be able to structure your content in such a way that your learners will apply new knowledge that they have just acquired to solve problems. So you give your students project, for instance, okay, ask them to find out, okay, based on what they have taught, they've been taught in the classroom or what you've exposed them to online. Give them projects. Let them go outside to search for information and solve problems. And lastly, there is a need for you to ensure teaching presence. Okay, teaching presence rather than teacher presence is so neat to allow for a teaching function for the teachers and students. So it is the teaching presence that is important here, not the teacher presence. Okay, the teacher presence is a component of the teaching presence. So the teaching presence goes beyond only the teacher because teacher is also one of the media in the instructional process. So the teaching process is an entire connection of all the teaching activities that should be integrated in the instructional content. So when you are designing your blended learning uh, content, okay, there is a need for you to ensure teaching presence. You include different resources that will teach the content of the curriculum effectively well. Include videos, you include audio, include different learning resources. If you are able to ensure the presence of all these three components, then it will help you to purposefully integrate in-class and online learning activities within your blended learning setting. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next class.